Welcome to Frame Dropped! Sony announced the PlayStation 1 Classic, and whether you're excited or not, it seems that the company is trying to profit from Nintendo's equivalent products. And this is not the first time that Sony seems to have copied Nintendo's ideas. But is this all really exactly as it seems? Today we will take a look at Sony's past relationship with Nintendo and what that possibly means for the PlayStation's future. If you look at Sony's upcoming retro console, it appears as almost everything has been stolen from Nintendo's NES and Super NES Classic. From the console itself that comes preloaded with games, the HDMI port, the fact that it's powered via USB and the fake eject button that lets you switch games, to apparently the length of the cables. It seems pretty obvious that Sony is copying Nintendo products, but it's not quite as simple as that. After Nintendo created a hype towards miniature versions of retro hardware out of thin air, not Sony, but a couple of different companies tried to capitalize on Nintendo's success. Sega announced the Mega Drive Mini, Atari released the Atari Flashback, the Commodore 64 was also released again, and the Neo Geo Mini will have its worldwide release later this month. So as you see, a handful of different companies jumped on board after Nintendo and created similar products. You could even say that all of these companies copied Nintendo in some way or another. So did Sony steal from Nintendo? Well, not exactly. They wanted to capitalize on a new trend in the gaming industry and did just that. But would the PlayStation 1 Classic exist if Nintendo hadn't developed the retro consoles? Hard to say, but most probably not. Look at it like that. If a company invents the world's first modern smartphone and after a while a bunch of other companies develop smartphones, it's not exactly stealing. It means that other companies notice the trend and want to play a role in the market with their own take on the novelty. They even have to do this from time to time if they want to survive. If it's stealing, there are lawsuits, and yes, it's not like that doesn't ever happen in the corporate world. But Sony does take inspiration from Nintendo products, or rather Nintendo's way of achieving tremendous success on the market with risky niche products. And if you ask me, I sometimes wish that Sony would stick more to their own ideas, but I'll come back to that in a bit. First, let's look at the past and a few other examples where Sony arguably copied Nintendo. 3 to be exact. Analog sticks, motion controls, and handheld devices. Now, the analog stick wasn't actually invented by Nintendo. Atari, Sega, and even Sony itself developed controllers with joysticks before Nintendo did, but the Nintendo 64 had the first standard gamepad with a built-in analog stick and heavily influenced the way controllers look today. The fact that Sony looked at the market and also released a controller with analog sticks was definitely the right decision because it is an obvious and lasting improvement for the industry. What about motion controls? In 2003, so 3 years before the Wii, Sony released the iToy camera, which introduced motion-controlled gaming to the PlayStation 2, and eventually was later kind of copied by Microsoft. But again, Nintendo's Wii risked releasing a whole console based on motion controls and revolutionized the market. Later that year, Sony released the PlayStation 3 with the 6-axis controller, which used motion controls, obviously driven by Nintendo's success in the industry. This time it didn't go that well. At the beginning, the rumble feature was suspended out of fear that it could damage the motion controls, and only a few first-party titles implemented the feature. Now the PlayStation 4 controller still has said feature, but almost no game uses it. Okay, the PlayStation Move controllers work well with VR, but their initial use didn't resonate with gamers. As you can see from these two examples, sometimes copying is a good idea, sometimes not at all. So let's talk about handheld consoles real quick. We all know that the Nintendo Game Boy wasn't the first handheld console and that many other companies released handheld devices before Sony released the PSP and the PS Vita. But the decision to make those products was undoubtedly inspired by Nintendo's success with portable devices. And this scenario is similar to our first discussion about retro consoles. Did Sony copy Nintendo in some way? Sure. Will I still buy the PlayStation 1 Classic? Definitely yes, because I like the product and I don't care that there are similar products on the market. In fact, I own them as well. The PlayStation Portable and Vita were solid products, although the Vita didn't sell too well, but that's a long story for another video. They both are good pieces of hardware and nobody really cares that other companies did it first. But what bothers me, and now I return to my previous concern, is that I wish that Sony wouldn't only look at the market and come up with more original ideas. In a recent interview about the next generation of consoles and the sudden success of the Nintendo Switch, Sony's PlayStation chief John Codera said this: "In my opinion, rather than separating portable gaming from consoles, it's necessary to continue thinking of it as one method to deliver more gaming experiences and exploring what our customers want from portable. We want to think about many options." This scares me a bit because it seems as if Sony is considering making the PS5 a hybrid portable console like the Nintendo Switch. Because yes, the Switch was highly successful and nobody expected it, but I don't see a way in that Sony could copy the Switch and win. The Nintendo Switch works because it's Nintendo and because it's kind of a niche thing. Nintendo's philosophy is that fun games and innovative products come first, and graphics, resolution and all that stuff are not that important. The Nintendo Switch is way less powerful than the PS4 or Xbox One, and it has to be because it has to be small and portable, and that's more important in this case. If Sony makes the next console Switch-like, they either would have a less powerful console, which would mean that all third-party titles would look better on other devices, or that you would still have an additional processing unit, which would make it more of an improved version of SharePlay, in which case people who really want a portable console would still choose Nintendo. So in conclusion, there have been many cases where Sony peaked at Nintendo's work, and sometimes that's okay, because it improves the overall industry and creates competition. But in other cases it might have been better to have original ideas. What do you think? Does everyone steal in the gaming industry, and is that a definite bad thing? Do you fear that nothing good can come if Sony is talking about the Switch, or do you have a different opinion? Tell us in the comments below, please like and subscribe. See you next time.